I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
Well, there was a bunch of frogs hopping. I guess frogs don't run. They're hopping through the forest, right? And all of a sudden, two of the frogs fell down into this deep pit. And their friend frogs are standing there, and they're looking down in their pit, and they're saying, "Oh, no, you can never come out again." And the frogs in the pit are hopping and trying to get out of the pit. And their friends are saying, "No, don't. You can't get out. You can't get out. Don't stop it. You're going to hurt yourself. Don't try. Just stay there. Don't try and hurt yourself." And they're still hopping. And finally, one of the frogs passes out and dies. And the other frog continues to hop and 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 to hop, and finally gets out of the pit. And he's standing by the side. He's and his friends say to him, "Didn't you hear us? We were yelling at you that you'll never get out of the pit." And the frog said, "I didn't hear you because I'm partially deaf. I thought you were encouraging me to jump out of the pit." So sometimes our positive words and positive actions can actually create a healing and a newness in each other. So today, we're talking about, let me go back to it here, mindful compassion. And actually, I changed the title of this talk, and sort of in the middle of it, things happened, and it wasn't going the direction that I thought. You ever have that happen? I'm like, "Okay, Spirit, I got a direction, and this is the way I'm going." It was titled, Compassion Heals the World, or Can Heal the World. And as I'm working on it, and I'm letting it go, and letting it go, and letting it go, and it's like, I knew what I wanted to talk about, right? Ever have that feeling? And Spirit says, "Oh, no, well, try this. Oh, try this. And try this." And so, reluctantly, I gave in. So today we're talking about mindful compassion. And as many of you know, my dad died when I was 12. And he was 40, and this is a picture of him not too long before he died. He was a beautiful, handsome being. Yeah. Thank you. Remind me to raise your salary. After my dad died, I didn't have much of a support system. My dad and my stepmother had only been married, I'm not even sure, 2 or 3 years, because my mom had died 4 years before my dad died. And so my whole community, my step family, was devastated. And so there really weren't a whole lot of people around me who could really support me in this transformation of all of a sudden being without a dad, and before that without a mom. And well-meaning people came to me and said some things to me that I have never forgotten. And this is the first time I've ever talked about it in public, because I thought it's important that we educate each other on ways to be mindfully compassionate with each other. And one of the things that one religious person said to me was that God must have had a reason for taking your dad away. Wow. It's like, and on some level, that really hurt me, right? It was like, that doesn't feel very compassionate to me. That doesn't feel like you're really there for me. And then somebody else said to me, "Oh, Blaine, it's time to stop crying and just go on with your life." it surprises us sometimes and hurts us when friends and relatives can seem to abandon us when we need emotional support the most. And I think it's because most people don't know how to be with somebody who is suffering. It's difficult when people suffer because something happens in us, in our neurocircuits, when someone near us experiences death or tragedy of some sort, and we're with them in it. Those same neurons that are affecting that person that's hurting are impacted within us. And so we begin to experience what they are experiencing. And that sometimes causes people to not to want to be fully with somebody who's hurting because they're hurting. So what we're going to talk about today is how can we be fully present? How can we be mindfully compassion in the midst of somebody else's tragedy? How can we be present for each other? People say things because they're really not educated on what to say. And I hope I can give you some ideas today of things you can say because people are going to have difficulty in your life. And I hope that I can leave with you some tools to help you to be totally present and mindfully compassion. Some different strategies maybe than some of the people that tried to be compassionate to me or maybe have been compassionate to you. So, what is mindful compassion? Mindful compassion is a technique, a process that we can use to support others when they're healing or when they're going through a challenging time in their life, when they're experiencing the loss of a loved one. Mindful compassion means to be able to direct our attention to the interaction with the person that is hurting, rather than getting bogged down in our own feelings and taking the conversation away from the person that's healing. My batteries are a little low, I think, in my hand thing here. So mindful compassion is a heart-based act that encourages others to feel the pain that they are experiencing and to fully be with it. To help them to be present to what is they're experiencing in their life. So today we're really talking about how can we build new neural pathways in our brains so that we don't get triggered by some other's tragedy or hurt, so that we can be totally present for them and not bring back the focus to ourselves. Now, there are some mindless compassion statements, and I don't want to be disrespectful by calling it mindless compassion, but the things that were shared with me, in a sense, were mindless because they didn't come from mindfulness. They didn't come from that heartfulness. They may have come from some naivety, or not being able to be present because they didn't know. I got triple A's. Okay, anybody got any triple A batteries on them? You could be a big winner today. You could go home with what's behind this door if you have 2 AAA batteries. So, what is a mindless compassion thing that someone said? All right, just push the button there on the keyboard. Yep, there you go. And it tends to go too far ahead. Yeah, here we go. All right, so if you guys just want to help me, you can just push this button here. All right. So, one mindless compassion is don't cry. We've all heard that. Anybody ever had anybody say that to you? right? And people say that to us because they're feeling their own feelings, and they don't want to feel their own feelings, and they're uncomfortable with someone else expressing their feelings. And so they say, don't cry. Not for the person who is experiencing the heartache, but they say it for themselves. Something else that people say, and what I like to say when somebody says to me, don't cry, or if I'm in a place where somebody is crying, I like to say to them, this is a safe place to cry. You know, if I'm counseling somebody or being with somebody who is hurting, to say, it's okay to cry here. It's okay. This is a safe place. You can be safe here. Please share your tears with me. I think there's nothing more honorable than to be with somebody who is hurting and to have them share their feelings, to share their tears. It's an honor. This is a safe place to cry. The other one that I think is mindless compassion is to say, God must have a reason for taking your dad away. Oh, that just hurts me. Yeah. Sometimes we've heard people say things like, everything happens for a reason. Bullshit. When you're hurting, you don't want to hear that there's a reason, right? Again, the person is it's unconscious, but trying to distract you, distract someone from feeling their pain. Or I've heard people say in our new agey world, they must be needed on the other side. Oh. Wow, it's horrible. And how do we know? Right? It may not even be true. How do we know? It's not a comforting thing to say. Or sometimes people say, you will learn something from this. Oh, really? How do you know I'm going to learn something from this? And if I am, oh boy, but I don't want to hear about it right now when I'm hurting. It's like they want to say, just let me feel my pain. Just let me hurt. Let that be okay. To be in my pain, to be in my hurt, and just be for me. Another thing we do. Thank you. Give that woman a prize. All right. Oh, this is exciting. I hope this solves the issue here. Bless you, my dear. Thank you so much. You know, I've never changed my batteries in front of the whole congregation before. You know, it's a lesson in going to spirit, isn't it? Thank you. So another thing that we do often when we are unconscious is to go into lengthy stories about our suffering. You know, I've heard people do this so many times. They say, oh, I remember the pain I felt when my father died. He was a fantastic father. He loved me so much. Look, here's his picture. Oh, wasn't he handsome? Isn't he a great guy? I feel so much pain and oh, I know what you're feeling. Bullshit. We cannot know what somebody else is feeling, and I don't believe that when someone is hurting, they really want to feel your feelings. They don't really want to hear your story. But we're so drawn to do that because we don't know what to say, and we feel like we need to say something. So often we go into telling our own stories. Well, evidently that wasn't, I need more than a battery change. So the next one is honesty is the best policy. Whenever we're with somebody who is having a difficult time, the best thing to do is to be honest. because the person will get whenever we're not honest. Remember we talked about the judgment last week, right? Whenever we judge something that's not true, or whenever we say something that's not true, on some level the person gets it. They feel it. They know it's not true. One of the things that I like to say is, I wish I had something to say that would take your pain away, but I don't. But I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Because so often we feel like, don't we ever felt that way? I wish I knew what to say to somebody who is hurting or lost somebody or in pain. And if we just tell them the truth, oftentimes the best thing we can do is to what? Listen, not say anything. Because if we speak out of our nervousness and that desire to be a genius and come up with something, it may not be the truth. So just be present. Just to say, tell me more. Share with me what you're feeling. So another couple mindless statements are, I know what you're going through. And we can't know what somebody else is going through. Yes, we've all experienced pain before, but to tell somebody else that I know what you're going through doesn't support them. Or to say, I know what you're feeling. We can't know what somebody else is feeling. We can think we do. Maybe it's something similar, but to say to them, I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through, doesn't encourage them. We don't want to treat somebody else's pain as if it's easy to overcome. When we say to somebody, I know what you're feeling, I know what you're thinking, in a sense we're saying to them, what you're feeling doesn't really matter. Or you will get over it, but we are diminishing the pain that they're feeling. Because it's uncomfortable to who? It's uncomfortable to us. So just let them feel their pain. Don't diminish what they're feeling. Gosh, anybody brought up with that? That it's not okay to feel. It's just not okay to be present to your own pain and your own suffering. I love this statement. I can't imagine how hard this must be for you, but you are strong for telling me. Truth. To say, I can't imagine what you're thinking. I can't imagine what you're feeling. And then to affirm it by saying, but what I see in you is someone strong. What I see in you is someone loving. What I see in you is somebody honest. What I see in you is somebody that's able to feel. So we're present with them. And the next thing that I've said it myself. Somebody's hurting. You ever find yourself saying, if you need me, just call. What does that do? Is the person going to call? Most likely not. And if we really wanted to do something, I think we wouldn't say that. In a sense, we're saying, if you need me, just call. But the person's not going to call. Because we're giving the person a test. We're giving the person an assignment. We're giving somebody the opportunity to have to stand up and be courageous and make that call in the midst of their suffering. So instead of saying, if you need anything, just call me, say, would you like to go for a walk? Can I bring you some food? Or I found, when my dad died, people just brought us food. We didn't ask. They didn't call up and ask, is it okay if we bring you food? They showed up with it, right? Because you ever find that it's hard to ask for help when you're in that place? Yeah? Anyone? I like to think I'm a strong, independent person. For me to call somebody and say, would you please bring me some food? Probably not going to happen. Volunteer your services. Be proactive. Walk their dog. Come and do their dishes. Buy some takeout. Give them a hug. It's the small things that make a huge difference. Many people find themselves isolated when they're hurting. Right? Because we tend to isolate ourselves when we're hurting. So go and say, I want to be with you. So there are some positive statements that we can make. So to remind somebody of the truth that you see in them. To say, you know what, you are brave and courageous. I know that you will make it through this difficult situation. Sometimes we need those frogs standing at the top of the pit yelling positive things at us to help us to remember the truth of who we are. Because we can forget, especially when we're hurting or we're sick. Ever notice? Sometimes, we have a negative bias, and I like to think in our thinking anyway, and especially when we're having a difficult time. You might say, this is hard. But you've made it through every other difficult challenge that's been thrown at you. You will make it through this one too. Perhaps my favorite is this statement. How can I love you best right now? Do you like that? How can I love you best? That gives a couple different messages. What are they? That I love you, first of all. You're reminding them that you love them. And what else does it do? You're important. And I am here for you right now. How can I love you right now? How can I be here for you right now? Wow, I love that. And the next one is mindful compassion. Is the practice of being present to the suffering of others and responding from our heart with a desire to relieve this suffering with kindness, with caring and support. So how can we support others with mindful compassion? So here are some suggestions that come from people who have been in pain. And the first one is, nope, you can go back to the other slide. Thank you. Don't let me be alone. Or on the other hand, if I want to be alone, check with me frequently. Can you feel that, the difference in that? Because sometimes we want to be alone when we're hurting. But we don't want to be so alone that we feel like we're forgotten. So check in with someone who is alone, who's hurting. The second thing we can do is to deliver a cheerful bouquet of flowers. Bring something over to share with them, some flowers or some coffee, some soup. Or offer to take a walk with them. Someone said, offer to take a walk with me. The fresh air will feel good. Take me to coffee. Hold my hand. Offer me a hug. Dry my tears. mindful compassion. And the last slide is a poem titled Thank You, Friend, from Grace Noel Crowell. She writes, I never came to you, my friend, and went away without some enrichment of the heart. More faith and less doubt, more courage for the days ahead, and often in great need. Coming to you, I went away, comforted indeed. How can I find the shining word, the glowing phrase that tells all about that love you meant to me? All your friendship spells, there is no word, no phrase for you, on whom I depend. All I can say to you is this: God bless you, precious friend. Namaste. I invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath. Breathing in and letting go. Remembering and recognizing your oneness with Spirit. Mindful compassion is at the root of the truth of who you are. It is that essence of life and love at the very center of your beingness. You have been created in the perfect image of Spirit. To be loving, to be peaceful, to be and let's rest for a few moments in the silence to embrace mindful compassion. breathing in and breathing out. Thank you, loving Spirit, for this divine nature of compassion. Let us live it, let us breathe it, let us be it. As we behold compassion within ourselves and share it with the world. And I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this moment, sensing the light through your eyes. And when you're ready, to allow your eyes to open and behold.
Where I live, they're all raised.